This is the African News Update on top accolade news. The headlines. South Sudan opposition warns of secret plan to relocate Riek Machar to Uganda. Kenya seeks IMF support. EU condemns ceasefire violations in Tripoli. Lives at risk as Zimbabwe's public health system crumbles. We start with the focus in politics. South Sudan opposition warns of secret plan to relocate Riek Machar to Uganda. South Sudan's main opposition group, the SPLM-IO, has raised alarm over a suspected plan to secretly relocate detained first Vice President Riek Machar to Uganda following the recent seizure of electronic devices belonging to his wife Angelina Teny by national security agents. SPLM-IO spokesperson Palmer Deng linked the alleged plot to a meeting between South Sudan's Vice President Benjamin Bolmel and Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni, though official details remain unclear. Machar has been under house arrest in Juba since March, with the government denying regional leaders access to him amid international calls for his release to advance the peace process. The situation underscores growing tension as the political future of South Sudan hangs in the balance. Moving to economy, Kenya seeks IMF support. The Central Bank of Kenya has reduced its benchmark lending rate for the sixth consecutive time, cutting it by 25 basis points to 9.75% in its effort to further support the struggling economy. The latest reduction is smaller than the previous 75 basis point cut, reflecting caution amid mixed economic signals. The bank also lowered its 2025 economic growth forecast from 5.4% to 5.2%, citing higher trade tariff, while inflation is expected to stay below the midpoint of its target range. Kenya continues to face fiscal pressures from heavy debt repayment and weak revenue, prompting it to seek a new loan program from the International Monetary Fund after halting its last agreement in March. Moving to international relations, EU condemns ceasefire violations in Tripoli. The European Union and its member states have strongly condemned recent ceasefire violations in Tripoli during its Eid holiday, calling for immediate restraint and protection of civilians. In a joint statement issued on Tuesday, the EU urged all parties to recommit to peace and warned against unilateral action that could derail fragile progress. Stressing the urgency of reviving a credible and inclusive political process, the EU reaffirmed its support for UN-led efforts and pledged to hold accountable those undermining Libya's path to national reconciliation and democratic elections. In health, lives at risk as Zimbabwe's public health system crumbles. The Zimbabwe Nurses Association has issued an urgent plea to the government, warning that public hospitals are in a state of collapse, leaving both patients and healthcare workers in crisis. ZINA President Enoch Dongo says nurses are working under impossible conditions, improvising daily to save lives without essential supplies, functioning diagnostic tools, or even basic necessities like blankets and proper ward windows. Many patients are forced to buy their own medication or are referred to unaffordable private hospitals. The warning followed the health minister's own admission of poor condition at the country's top referral hospitals. Nurses say government inaction is putting countless lives at risk and demand urgent intervention. You're watching the African News Update on Top Accolade News. Do stay with us. Still to come. Thanks for staying with us. In education, University of Zimbabwe strike deepens. Tensions are escalating at the University of Zimbabwe, where striking lecturers have now gone 58 days without pay after the institution withheld their salaries in retaliation for ongoing industrial action. The lecturers are demanding a return to pre-2018 wages of $2,250 a month, up from the current $230, citing the rising cost of living. The Association of University Teachers have condemned the salary cut as coercive, vowing not to return to work until demands are met. Despite the university hiring temporary adjunct staff, the union insists most lack proper qualification. Teaching and supervision have ground to a halt, exams are in limbo, and student unrest is growing. Moving to disaster. South African winter storm kills 7. A powerful winter storm sweeping across South Africa has left at least 7 people dead in the Eastern Cape province, with more fatalities feared as rescue efforts continues. Heavy flooding, snow, and bitter cold have caused widespread destruction, prompting road closures and dangerous travel conditions. A desperate search is still underway for a minibus taxi carrying school children that was swept away by flood waters on Tuesday. 3 children have been found alive so far. Nearly 500,000 homes remain without electricity, and disaster management teams are working around the clock in its hardest hit areas. The South African Weather Service has warned of the unusually strong cold front, which has now brought chaos to multiple provinces. Turning to entertainment. Ira Star wins Best International Act at the 2025 BET Awards. Nigerian music sensation Ira Star made history at the 2025 BET Awards by winning the coveted Best International Act category, outshining fellow African stars like Tyler, Rema, Black Sherif, and Uncle Waffles. The 22-year-old's win cements her place among African music royalty, joining past winners like Burna Boy, Tems, and Davido. Held at the Peacock Theatre in Los Angeles, the 25th BET Awards also saw Kendrick Lamar dominate the night with 5 wins, including Album of the Year for GNX and Best Collaboration with SZA for Luther. Ira's win follows a stellar year with global hits, chart-topping albums, and a standout performance at the Headies. Now in sports, South Africa advanced to COSAFA Cup semi-finals. South Africa has secured their place in the COSAFA Cup semi-finals after a goalless draw with Mauritius on Tuesday. The draw was enough for coach Vela Khumalo's side to top Group A, following Zimbabwe's 3-1 victory over Mozambique. Despite struggling to break down a resilient Mauritius defense and missing several scoring opportunities, Khumalo remains confident his team will improve their finishing ahead of the semi-finals. Our focus is now on sharpening our goaling skills, he said, highlighting the challenge of players returning from the off-season. South Africa will next face the winner of Group D in the semi-finals. That concludes our African news updates for today. Stay tuned for more African news and developments. Thanks for joining us. I am Ojarome Okocha. Connect and engage with us on all our social media handles. Do have a wonderful day.